Welcome to the VSBN Small Business Podcast. I'm Marie Alafaci, copywriter and writing coach, and today I have some very special guests. Firstly, we have Vanessa Thomas from Synced and Benjamin Marriott from Cornerstone and Compass. And today we're going to be talking in the studio about collaboration on big projects. To kick it off, I'd actually like to ask you about collaboration, because I think that's a really important part of a big project. So perhaps we'll start with you, Vanessa, and then go on to Benjamin. What makes a dream collaboration for you, and what happens when it goes wrong?
So a dream collaboration, which I've had the privilege of working with you, Marie, and other sort of allied creatives, is when, for a start, we each understand each other's language, or where one's genius energy starts and ends, and then, for example, my genius energy, where that starts and finishes as well. So where there's a level of respect, we've worked on a project fairly recently where you produced the copywriting and then I designed the brochure. So it was just a seamless transition from your process to then mine. And then obviously if it then went onto a website, it would then be followed on. So when the creatives share the same language, really works, shares the respect of what each profession does, that's your genius and this is mine. Where it doesn't work out is when there is that lack of understanding, or a client doesn't understand that there is a process involved, and timing tends to destroy that whole process, not understanding that copywriting takes time, and then once the copywriter passes it on to the designer, then the designer takes the time. So when it tends to go wrong, I find it's lack of understanding from a client's perspective and usually lack of time.
Okay. What about you, Benjamin?
100%, definitely on the language. And you can have someone try to communicate this whole process to let's say a client from a designer point, copywriter, development as well. If not speaking the same language in terms of where you're actually on the same page, like you could say a terminology of a word, which means something different to you and does to me.
Yep.
So we're all agreeing, yeah, we've got it. And there's comes the project being built, it's like, oh, you meant that. Oh gosh.
Yep.
Take that back. But also I think it's really important to have a centralized timeline, really important. I've had times before by people have different timelines, and then the one time something isn't entered to my own or another one's timeline, it all goes kaput. Yeah. You need to centralize your timelines across all parties involved. They might have their own internal ones for their own micro tasks, but there should be a main timeline everyone follows.
Yeah, I agree with both of those, but in particular what you were saying there, I think for me, the best projects are where there is what I call a client advocate. So one person, they might be the project lead, and it might be me or either of you, depending on who's perhaps brought the job to the group. Not that we are a group, but, to the specialists. And that person is the one who protects the client from all of those micro decisions. Just in the example of that brochure you were talking about, we had a lot of discussion about the different icons and what they meant and how they related to the text, which the client didn't need to see. Yes. They needed to see our best approach, and then they could say yes or no, or I don't like this or whatever. So I think it really needs a client advocate, and that person is there to achieve the desired outcome that the client wants. So yes, we all have our specialties, and it's great when everyone respects each other and understands that, but it's when that all comes together and there is someone who's saying, yeah, that's great, but I think the client means this. So that was a really interesting point. Oh, while we're talking about that, how do you feel as a developer you work best with what, for want of a better word, we call creatives, so copywriters and designers? Because, of course, producing a website is a creative process. You are problem solving in a creative way. So how do you work best with creatives?
To be honest, I think it really is, you need good kickoff meetings. Where kickoff meetings are going to be, everyone gets involved with a general plan for the project and really mash it out. What we're trying to achieve here. Are we aligned to the project goals from a dev creative point of view? And I think also when it comes to, having a best way of working with creative, I think it also depends on that creative as themselves as well. not all creatives are the same. Not all dev is the same.
Yeah.
You know, there's never one way of making it work. I would say though, getting on well goes a long way.
Yes, that's true.
At times of it's being complete mash of personalities.
Yes.
You know, sometimes dev world can be seen as more of the introvert, just code away, blah, blah, blah. Creatives only be the extrovert, the loud in the room. Sometimes they don't clash. It doesn't work very well. So even in that sense, having like people on both sides talk helps as well, I'd say.
I think that ties in what you were saying, you know, speaking the same language, but also wanting to understand that respect. I think, that ties in really well. So how do you work with, I know you are a developer as well.
Yes.
So how do you work with, say, the development side of things?
So for me, I've got a very sort of narrow skill set with the way I produce my website. So I actually need developers to come in, because for the more technical things, you know, if we're doing a bit more of a complex project, I need that if you want to say that introverted knowledge in, because I just don't have that. So for me, I love working with developers to we can share this dream together and we can produce it. Because a lot of the time, designers will go and do, I want to have this thing and I want to spin around here, or I want to do this. And you physically can't do that with the programs. Or, you know, it's a lot of work to actually get that look and feel. And I think my understanding of my limited knowledge of the web development side of things, I kind of know what can and can't be done. So I can't be too crazy. So then when I pull in a professional who knows all of that harder back end stuff, we've got that sort of synergy going, because I know this can be done, or I know this can't be done. And the bit that I can't do, that's where I pull in suppliers. Again, I don't have to be everything to everyone. I pull in talent where it's needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best way. If you're working on a big project with other suppliers, calling in the best people for the job to make sure it's done.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't think any of us can operate in isolation. No.
But you kind of think the fact of having that mindset, you know, a creative can have a mind that can go multiple boxes, right? Development, you have a box.
Yeah.
Don't touch my box. You know, they're very protective of what they want to achieve. And so it's good to have that banter back and forwards to say, okay, even copywriting as well, be creative, you're writing, you know, people in the past I've worked with, they say, well, I have this much text. Dev goes, great, but this small of a box we've agreed on.
Yes.
You know? Which is why wireframes is great to have.
Yeah.
You know, like in a sense, everyone has to be on the same page from the beginning and talk the same language, essentially.
Yeah.
How can referral partners like designers and developers set up a project so the copy side succeeds too?
That's a really good question. For me, I have to have a clear brief. Now, it doesn't matter if that's with the client or the project manager or the developer or the designer, whoever is the person who's a decision maker. So the person who's been given that job, you know, that client advocate job. So I absolutely need to have a clear brief. And because there's no point in me writing something, as you were saying, you know, I've got space for 500 words, but I've written 10,000. Yeah. Not that I would for a website, but, you know, you can't make this fit in there. And it's a waste of time, and, you know, clients get excited about the content, but it's not going to function in the setting. So for me, I absolutely need that clear brief. So I can say, when I've had the briefing, go back to that person and say, now, this is what I understood. This is what I've done. What do you think? Before it ends up going to the client who says, that's not what I wanted. Yeah. So for me, it is all about just really understanding, as you said, we're all on the same page and we're all trying to achieve the same outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking as well mainly about, you know, this is the starting points. When it comes to a user journey as such, about thinking about this is user going to go from start to end from the journey on the website. What's the best way to collaborate between all three, or maybe even four of SEO as well, of, you know, creative and development parties?
Well, for me, I think the thing I look at all the time is this easy? It should be. What would this look like if it were easy? So that's my starting point. So I am the person, even though it's not my job, I will look at the prototype website on my phone, and because so many of us are on our phones, can you read the buttons? Why have you got 3 steps to achieve this when you could just do that in one? And why are these pretty icons spinning around, as you say? So for me, it's about being the devil's advocate and just saying, I'm a customer. I don't know this project at all. How does it feel to, try and buy something? So that's how I approach it. What do you do, Vanessa?
Well, I mean, for example, I just want to refer back to obviously the project that we worked on, the flyer, which had icons in it. So for me, how I like collaborating with other creatives is, so for example, I was trying to redesign a brochure which had a number of different icons. So for my eye, being a layperson, not understanding the terminology in the brochure, the icons that were previously used didn't make sense. So I was able to speak with Marie and go, hey, Marie, I could be wrong. I'm not understanding these icons. And we had a great chat about what the icons should actually be, because Marie knows the client. She knew the content. So then I was able to change and pivot. So having that sort of collaboration, talking openly about the project has, I found, given our client, the shared client, a better result. So for me, it's about that communication with whoever the creative collaborator is, and just trying to at the end of the day, it's about getting the best result for the client. Leave your egos at the door and produce the best possible work. Yeah. So that's sort of how I work together with other creatives.
What about you, Benjamin?
Yeah, so for the user journey point of view, from our side particularly, it's the data we look at most, particularly if the site we're taking over. What's the current user's behavior on the site, But we then work with a designer to actually help to create storyboards around that, Look, okay, this is, say, product page, it looks nice, but no one's converting. Why is that? Well, maybe there's no information in the images. It's just an image. There's no features in the image. Maybe you have not enough information to gain the value from the beginning. There could be many different things. Like example, if you're a business, e-commerce business, and you want the user to go from, this is the homepage, how do I quickly get to my category, my products, right? We typically look at the data. Data will show us what part they're falling off at, right?
Okay.
And then we'll say, okay, designer, go to step 2 in this funnel, create a storyboard, look at other competitors, see how they're doing it, or take my own advice as well and add that. Yeah. But actually storyboard it out visually to say, okay, what could we do here? What could work? And A/B test it. Yeah. A/B test a lot. And it could be a micro A/B test. You're just testing even just the color of a button. Even you'd be amazed, a button color can make a huge difference. Basically on contrasts.
Yes.
And not to say that this is just a trial and error. There is science to this. There's certain colors attract more. Like Amazon have colors that color for a reason.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that helps again prompt the user to do the next action. Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about this storyboard. What is in the storyboard? Is it like the sequence of steps that the customer goes through? Is that what you're talking about?
So what you'd have typically in those storyboards is, imagine like a whiteboard session.
Yep.
You draw some examples here and there. You listen to the client talk. You get their feedback, what they're thinking should happen based on their own data as a store owner. Layer that with our experience as well. And you create essentially mock-ups of what it could look like based on that.
Right.
Those mock-ups then be built for, either a product page, it could be a service page, whatever it is. Again, this is only focusing on one of the funnel stages.
Yep.
If you're going to do a full funnel stage, then storyboard isn't really for that. A storyboard is more a bigger project kind of thing, or very focused, trying to achieve. If you want to go through a full funnel, we want to be saying, okay, step 1, homepage. Okay, what's our highest value content?
Yep.
Is it high enough? Most chance is not. We go to heat maps, we see people scrolling through a page. Yeah. They have call to actions 3/4 way down the page.
Yeah,
right?
you can't do that.
Traffic's gone.
Yeah.
Often with 3-4 scrolls, most traffic is gone websites.
Yeah.
So if you haven't captured them already in that first part, good luck.
Okay.
So that's why the data comes in. Okay, who is your most viable customers here?
Yeah.
And then we work with that data to pass on to designers, to copywriters as well. Even the copy makes a huge difference as well in this. So
that actually raises an interesting question, because I've been brought in on projects at the very beginning, in the middle and at the end, and I just wonder what is the optimum time for both of you to bring a copywriter into the project, and can it be too late?
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely
Yes.
too late.
Definitely too late. Yes.
So tell me more. Tell me, do you think is the optimum time to bring a copywriter into a big, let's say, a new website for a new business?
I'd like it to be at the beginning, purely because from my point of view, I know what I'm dealing with. And then I'm not having to go back. So the type of websites I produce, not the ones that Benjamin does, it is sort of more theme-based. So it's a drag and drop type of scenario, whereas then I know I've got all my content and I can just sit there and I can just lay the whole thing out. Whereas I can lay something out through a wireframe that I've worked up, only to realise, similar to what Benjamin said before, the box that I want to put so it visually looks nice can only contain 20 words, but I've got 100 words that have come through after. Yeah. So not only am I then going back to the project to readjust the design visually, I'm then going back to the copywriter and thinking, oh, can I please drop it down to 20 words because that's really all that we can fit in. So that to me blows out the timeline for any project. So ideally, I'd like all my information up front. So then I can then build either the wireframe from that or we then working in collaboration with that.
What about you, Benjamin? You nodded vigorously with early.
Yeah, I definitely agree early. But there are caveats to this. The sites we build, we typically actually will start, we actually do the back end work while the front end's being produced from a creative point of view.
Yeah. Yeah.
We already know and again, tell us about how soon do you mean about copywriting? You're saying copywriting before the wireframes, copywriting before the branding. So,
that's actually what I'm trying to get at. And because does the branding need to be done? Obviously, the offer needs to be clear and the customer needs to know who they're appealing to and which offer appeals to which client. So I'm not talking at that stage. So because I've worked on those projects and they are very hard because you have to do all that work.
Yeah.
And you're not actually scoped for that. So that can be difficult. But where does this fit in the example you just gave?
We would have an understanding, of course, to the overall project scope. So we'll know, okay, there's going to be some functionality we can be building out while the content's being produced still. Yep. We don't yet need to create the skeleton version of the site yet.
Right.
So that's fine. But we want copywriting should be done before we start producing the fields to create on the back end. Okay. So we can do integration side of things. We can get this environment set up. We can do what we know will be, the main sections, like a banner section. No one's going to have that one.
Yeah. Yes.
But the fields for that section, I don't want to touch until the content. Yeah. Because double work. If it's not going to be what you assume, who's paying for that?
And from a design perspective, what do you feel needs to happen?
Same thing in terms of if I can get the copy ASAP, for me, I'm able to then visualize how that copy needs to work within the space. So if I'm not as I said, I'm not double handling the content. So it becomes, this is what we're working with. Maybe, yes, there might be some tweaks to go back, can we reduce? But then if I know that this is the information we've got, I'll then design accordingly.
The reason I ask that is because I always do a wireframe for my clients because I give them the copy in what we call a copy deck, which is just a Word document for people who don't know what that is, that has got H1 for heading level 1 and H2 for heading level 2. And I put little features like some kind of highlight box, and I'll just put that in a box. But when clients are reading that, they'll change the words, but they can't often visualise what that's going to look like. So I create just in Canva a little black and white thing, and there's a grey face that is supposed to be their picture. And there is H1 might look like this. Your designer will come up with something different. And so I do that so that they can visualise it. But I then tell them, I don't know what you've worked out with your designer, colour-wise, theme-wise, what's going to pop visually. And I don't know what you're going to talk to the developer about in terms of functionality. But this is what it might look like. So I like to do the copy early, but I have worked on projects where I've come in right at the end, and it's a bit like painting by numbers. It can be done. It does stifle your creativity a bit, but I can actually do it. And I don't object to doing it. So in my view, I don't think there's any time that's too late because I will write to what's required. It may not be what the client was hoping for, but if they've agreed colours and design and all of that, then they're going to be pretty happy. So I've just got to work a little harder to make that pop. But yeah, so just while we're talking about wireframes, you produce them yourself. I give them to developers, and I obviously give them to designers as well. Are they useful to coming from a copywriter, or is it better to come from your end?
I'd say definitely if you have a copywriter send us a wireframe, that is to us really powerful to have. It means our developers can say, okay, this is the type of content we'll be having. Helps us understand, okay, this is going to be an image field, it's going to be a drop-down field, it's going to be an accordion, it's going to be a slide, carousel, it's going to be. We can tell from wireframe of content what to do for majority, at least the back-end side of the site. Adding the content to the site. That's amazing for us to have that.
Okay. Is it useful for a designer?
Most definitely. I mean, I do, for my websites, I do the same thing. We produce a wireframe for the same reason that the client can't actually see what they're actually getting. So by having those fields, it helps them navigate what the website will eventually look like, as I said, minus the colour and the pictures and stuff like that. So having a copywriter provide that level of structure means that, one, I don't have to do it because the work will be 90% there. Then I can then concentrate on building that component of it where I then put the colours in, the fonts, the images, the icons, all of that, the design component. So it's brilliant. I've never seen it done for a wireframe provided by a copywriter, which that sounds amazing.
Oh, well, it actually helps me. It is really, because maybe I'm a bit visual as well, but it just helps me visualise it. And the first time I did it for a client, they went, "What's this? That's not what I want in my website." And I went, no. And then when they understood it, they went, oh, okay, yes. And then they could start talking about colour palettes and all of that. So in terms of branding, the same question that Benjamin asked me, does branding and all of that need to be done before they start building?
So there are two aspects of branding. Traditional branding, where you actually look at the personality of the business and of your customer profile, that should be done beforehand. So we've developed we've got two sort of hero workshops, which is the customer DNA, which is essentially your customer profiling, what makes them tick, male, female, demographics, which I'm sure each of us have something similar in our own business. So there's that. And then obviously there's what we call the brand DNA, which is your tone of voice, everything, the personality of your business, and then how the two of you meet. So obviously that would then go to a copywriter to then flesh out the tone of voice, which would then dictate the direction of what imagery should look like, what colours should look like. So that side of branding realistically probably should be done first. The visual logo or elements like that can be done sort of in conjunction. If it hasn't been quite finished off, there's double handling. But it can be done later on. Let's just say you haven't established your colours just yet. You can still build a website and go back in and change the colours. It's, again, not ideal. It just means it's more double handling, but it can be done. So in an ideal world, if you had all of that beforehand, you knew what your photographs were going to be, it's going to make a developer's life easy. If you know what fonts the brand should be using, again, will make the life easier for a developer. So in an ideal world, you should have it done beforehand. It just makes life easier afterwards.
I think also with that, typically we'd have something called a style guide. The style guide would have all your headings in the correct font sizes. For the most part, the headings generally do work okay, but sometimes H1 is your big, large text. Some people, they have the text for that, which they want to have. Someone comes in the project and changes that text for maybe 2 lines. They add an extra 5 words, is now 5 lines.
Yes.
How do you do that? And so there are times whereby we do need to have, that's why copywriting early on helps a lot. So it locks in that copy. So we don't have those text changes. And we just finalized all of the sizings. Because the website, most part, is content driven. So once we start messing around with headings that later on in the project, it's going to mess with the site.
We touched on this as well at the beginning, Benjamin. You were talking about timelines. So how can we educate our customers, our clients, about the time frames when there are multiple specialties involved? What's the best way to do that?
It's a very good question. I think, honestly, it's just transparency. Open communication right at the beginning, and even in the project scoping, expectations should be met right at the beginning. So there's no calling around, well, I didn't know I was supposed to sign this off then or whatever it's going to be. The timeline should be shared with the client, first of all, as a draft, just so they can understand what's to expect in the final version. I think that way, that simple and alone just helps people, helps clients realize, okay, I can see the line for, could be their key provider, could be any of us, then the third parties as well. If they can see that and they see how they intertwine between, okay, this is going to be, copywriting, then it might be able to design here and then web devs here.
Yeah.
If they can see that, but then see the milestones. I don't think the client needs to see every single task. That's just overwhelming for them. But the key milestones and key sign-off points is vital to have, so a client can go, okay, I know in a week's time they'll be finishing, and I have 3 days to sign this off.
Yeah,
and that's what I was just about to say, Benjamin, that they also know their expectation of what that sign-off period, because obviously if they then push that sign-off to further down the line, then it throws the timeline out. Yeah.
So who does that in the projects that you work on?
Project manager.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've worked with another agency where I'm their designer, and he project coordinates the whole thing, and there's like a special Gantt chart where this is the development stage of whatever project we're working on, this is the client feedback stage, and then author's corrections 1, 2, 3, and then final delivery. So that he manages that whole process.
Wow.
And the projects run smoother because then everyone knows what expectations are there, and then if for whatever reason the client is unable to meet that deadline, then it's like, well, we can't deliver it by then, so it then does get pushed out. That's when it works really nicely. Other times that doesn't quite work because the deadline can't move. So what's one thing clients can do before hiring a copywriter that makes the process smoother and the results stronger?
Well, following on from your comment about having the branding done, knowing who they are, who they're appealing to, what problem they solve, what outcome they make possible, all of that goes without saying. Yeah. That makes it so much easier. But what I like them to do is collect what I call a swipe file. We use them in copywriting a lot. It is where I get them to just take a screenshot of any websites that they love or hate.
Nice.
And then they just put them in a document. And then I really drill down in the briefing and say, what do you like about this? Is it the language? Is it because it's funny? Is it because it's very professional? Or does it have that sort of feeling you want to leave your customers, your web visitors with? Is that what you're wanting? Sometimes they'll say, I just love the colours, which is useful information to pass on to you. Or I like the fact that when I press this came up, which is useful for the developer. But for me, that is really great because I am, words are my jam. And so I can look at something and say, I love that because it does this, it does that, and it plays on this. And so I can talk about that, but I don't expect my clients to be able to do that. So if they can just give me examples of ones they love and things they absolutely hate, then I can find out how, because not everybody does a brand voice thing.
No.
A lot of people don't have budget for that or even think it's necessary. Yeah. But I can find out how to frame my writing better. Now, I actually want to ask you something, Benjamin. We're all on our phones all the time. So are you designing mobile first and desktop second, or are you going, no, we still do desktop first and then go mobile?
Yeah, good question. So particularly with e-commerce businesses, most chances is going to be mobile is going to be your main one. So 100% mobile first design is crucial. Yes, we look at desktop as well. But even if designer goes desktop build first, in our mind is still thinking how that translates to a mobile. Yeah. We don't always actually, it doesn't mean actually design the mobile design first as such.
Okay.
Some people do, which was a designer of them to use. But when we're doing mobile first design, it's thinking, okay, how would this appeal to a user on a mobile? How many scrolls are we doing? We're doing more than 5 scrolls on a page.
Yep.
If we are, particularly on a page like a homepage. That's quite a lot on e-commerce. Service-based, a bit different because you expect to see more information. 100% mobile first is really crucial. But caveat here, people forget tablets.
True.
Obviously, most websites, they work great on both, but tablets have many different sizes. And there's been times I've seen text overflow when they turn it from landscape to portrait. I'm like, oh gosh. Yeah, it's a way of figuring out what is the fastest way for somebody to take action on a website when they're typically in a rush or they're not really focused. On the desktop, you are focused. You've typed it in, you're on your chair, you know you're going to surf the web. On your mobile, it could be, I'm just on my couch scrolling, or you could be on a train, Whatever you're doing, it's not always convenient either on a phone. People can, it's not, your distractions, right? You have notifications showing up all the time about your friend's birthday, or got a new cat, whatever it's going to be, right? It has to, because mobile design, it has to be distraction free. Yeah. And sometimes we actually maybe remove parts of the desktop from the mobile. We hide sections out altogether.
That's really interesting. True, I'm sure this has never happened when you've worked with me, Vanessa, but what's a common mistake when people just say, oh, we better get a designer to look at this as sort of an afterthought? What happens when that happens?
It tends to look a little bit like a dog's breakfast, that things are just sort of placed together. A lot of the time things are not also considered where things need to go. I find that consistency is usually the main problem as well. If we're doing some social media graphics, it just sort of like, oh, good enough is close enough. But then what you're doing is you're actually damaging your brand because you're not having things that are consistent, because it's not the first thing that people would think of. It's like, oh, well, we'll just make it pink. And, well, it's kind of similar to my pink, or I like that pink today, but I might use some other pink tomorrow. So what tends to happen is you can very quickly ruin your brand very quickly. We before we rebranded a fantastic company, when I went on his website and then onto his socials and then onto his LinkedIn, every time the logo was produced, it was chopped off, or it was using the wrong font, and it was the wrong, like everything. There was nothing that was consistent. So what that does also is it creates a level of distrust at a subconscious level that is this the same company? Or if it is the same company, why are you showing up there? It's at that subconscious level that tends to get there's that wobble of, do I trust this organisation or this business? So I find when it's not considered, that's where you're breaking your own rules. When
you were talking about those pinks, I was thinking sometimes I do that with the colours and I better be better.
No, but you've got a fantastic array of colours that we've created for you, so you can do that. But there is a friend of mine who her branding was pink and blue, pink and brown. And as I said, every time I saw one of her pieces of social media, there was no consistency. It was light pink here, dark pink there, a complete different shade and tone. So I was like, no, let's bring it back.
Oh dear, that's funny.
What's a common helpful thing clients do that actually makes the writing process harder?
Oh, that's really good. I think there's a couple of things. When they're trying desperately to show me how smart they are, and my clients are brilliant. They are really smart. They're, brains the size of a planet. I tend to work in sort of complex, scientific, technical or highly regulated areas. My clients tend to be in those areas. So I know they're smart, but they forget that their website is not about them. Yes, it's about them, but it's not about them. It's about their customers looking at this and saying, what's in it for me? What outcome are they going to make possible? What problem are they going to take away? So part of it is that they keep showing me all their qualifications and correcting things, saying that's not the right word. And I say, yes, they are not a technical boffin like you. Yeah. If this were an article in a technical magazine, absolutely keep the jargon. Yeah. But you can't do that for your general public customer. So there's that. And they also try to make me the subject matter expert. And I said, I don't have to know. Like I had one client who sent me, and after about 30 documents, I was getting palpitations every time I saw an email from them. Delightful guy, really committed, passionate about his work. But I can't condense his 10 years of learning in the documents. I think I got up to 40,000 words, and I just went, no, I can't do any more. That was very early on. So trying to cram too much jargon and text and qualifications and expertise into either me or the website, that doesn't help. I'm just there to translate it for the average person. Now, I want to ask you, Benjamin, what role does this data play in the early part of a project? Because I know you're very data-driven.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
This is more on a sense of we're taking over a website from somebody else. Otherwise, no data to show.
Yeah, true.
I guess there's data for like in a general term, but not specific to them. So what I find is there's definitely industry norms and expectations to be met for websites, depending on the vertical they're in. But I've also found that every website has its own nuances. And so the data is crucial to say, okay, yes, this is our audience, but are they really the audience on the site right now? A lot of times it's not. If you look at bounce rates, some websites, it's really high. Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, information's not relevant to them.
Yeah.
And they go from Google search to website, and that's like, well, that's not what I'm looking for. Or it's,
Yeah.
So the data helps drive the future for the website. It's looking at, okay, this is the now, but we can see trends. So we can say, okay, this is where you are now. This is your requirements for your business. We take those, heat maps, the recordings. We say, okay, these pages here need some serious work. Or we say, completely rebuild it. Ideally, we don't fully rebuild it. That's a big effort. It could be new branding, it could be whole new look and feel, which can actually be kind of negative because your SEO is going to go down, possibly. You need a very good SEO agency to make sure you don't lose much of your ranking either, because everything's going to change on the website if you do rebuild. So I'd rather just do small changes that are measurable. Think about data, you can measure it.
Yeah.
So would you do design changes? Yeah?
Definitely. This is so in our business, we're all about how do we, focus on the key metrics for a business. Could be the conversion rates, average order value. The conversion rate, that could be for e-commerce or for a service-based business. Like service-based, your forms be filled out. You have 10 fields in your form for a plumber.
Yeah.
Make it 3.
Yes.
Get the
indeed.
details. Get the rest later.
Yes. That is so true. That's the sort of thing I was sort of alluding to before about the customer journey.
Yeah.
Is if I want a plumber, I want to know where they are they available, and can you get back to me immediately? I don't have to tell them it's a sprocket that's broken, the flabungan valve in the I can tell them that on the phone. Yeah, that is a really good point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the data, we can see all that. We can see people on the form. They go 1, 2, 3, and they go away.
Yeah.
So we can see the data, show that on the visual map. People typing, and they go away.
Wow.
So we hone in a lot onto key elements on the site to just improve those parts.
Fantastic.
Well, as we sort of wind up, are there anything you want to talk about? I'm thinking about what's the kind of weirdest thing or a project that looked like it was going to be a disaster, or something that clients always say it looks great on the page, but when you do it, it doesn't work. So I want something weird and wacky. I'll go first.
You go.
Quite often, clients will really want to honour somebody, like a legacy thing in a business. Grandpa always called it Grandpa's grouse gadgets. So we want to call it Grandpa's grouse gadgets. And, that's fine. All of Grandpa's contemporaries are not here anymore. It's lovely you want to honour him, but your business is on a phone now and people want to know if they can buy it. So quite often it's that, or it's jokes. And it doesn't have to be small businesses. I think it was Tourism Tasmania had this one, it must be 10 years ago now, and it was go behind the scenery. And you go, what does that mean? Does it mean Tasmania's fake and we're all going to look behind the curtain? I remember when that came out and I went, what is this? They persisted for about 6 or so years, and then they came up with come down for air, which I think is brilliant because, you come up for air,
True.
but we're the mainland, we go down to them. And I thought that's clever. So it's often puns or jokes or things that are legacy that they sound great and you sort of understand why people are going in that direction, but they just don't work.
I've got a particular style of design, and one of my clients is a council, and they've got a particular look and feel, but they wanted to break out into the youth sort of market, and they asked for a zine style, and so on paper, like they wanted a zine thing, and they wanted text, and clearly I'm not the target market because I didn't know what a zine was. So I then had to do the research, and it's about different sort of elements coming together, and it's very layered and very textured, and it's not my normal wheelhouse. So it sounded like it was going to turn quite messy on page. And then through a lot of research, I managed to actually get there. And it turned out actually quite nice to the point where another department said, can I have one of those too? And so it was a poster and a whole social media campaign that went with it. But it was with my forever, I've been at this for a very long time, looking at it and go, that's going to look terrible as just like all these different parts coming together. It's not going to work well. But it eventually did, which is good.
Very nice. Oh, you got a happy story.
Yes, in that regard.
What about you, Benjamin? What wild, wonderful, weird thing have you had to do?
Not too many, thankfully, but there was one I did have a while back whereby the client came to me. They wanted to do a very nice, clean e-commerce website. Mm-hmm. They were told to use this other platform. This platform was, dog's dinner. It was just not right at all for purpose. And so we okay, your platform isn't going to work for you. It's just this is wrong for e-commerce. Shopify came along, put them on there, and within about 2 months they were live, and they could edit content so much easier. There's no issues with orders. This is where my thought process now is around businesses and tools. Yeah. Never get a business to fit the tool. Yeah. The tool has to fit your business. Yeah. So just because even Shopify is great for e-commerce, sometimes, it might not be for you. Yep. It's typically people who are going to get more, we want to grow the e-commerce business. But before a small store, saying just a handful of things, WordPress is totally fine for that. Yeah. You don't need that yet. You can grow into it. Yes. But vice versa as well.
No, that's fantastic.
So what tools do you use in your design processes to make sure the project is on track?
So for me, in terms of on track or helping the clients out, we tend to use, and you touched on this earlier on, was a style guide. And we find that is a really good guide for people to know, well, what are your colours, what are your fonts, what are your imagery, how it needs to look and feel, so you can pass it on. But what I also found is through COVID, obviously everyone jumped on to Canva. And look, I'm a designer, I use the Adobe products, but Canva's a great program. And what I do love and what they've done really well is their brand kit
I love
section.
Canva.
And for that, half the time, whenever I'm dealing with clients, they either don't have their logo in the correct format or they don't know their colours. So I'm usually backwards engineering it, but having Canva as a tool to put all of your assets in there, it just makes, here's are the photographs, the logos are all here are the colours. I know we've set you up, Marie, with all of your different illustrations. They're all in your Canva template. So when you're then making brochures or anything else, it's easy for you to actually use. And then it's easier for a third party to come on board and know what the look and feel is. So I found that tool really helps my clients, can to then pass on to others as well.
Yeah, no, I love Canva a lot. I want to be Canva when I grow up.
So, Marie, have you ever had to translate a client's technical or complex info into something that the average person can understand? And how did you go with that?
That is my bread and butter. As I said earlier, I work with a lot of technical boffins or people who are in really highly regulated areas, and they want it to be right. Yeah. And one particular client kept putting in the technical terms every time I took them out. And this is the one that I had to say to, this is not for you. This is for your customer. And we had lots of arguments. Well, not arguments, but very passionate discussions about, but it needs to be right. And yes, it needs to be right in this. You have to do it right, but your client just has to know that what that means in English. Luckily, my husband's an engineer, so when I get exasperated, I will go, okay, Ian, this is what they said. This is what I've written. Am I right? And you go, yeah. Fine. And then I could go in and fight again. And interestingly, this client said to me at the end of the project, my God, you eat jargon for breakfast, don't you? And I went, yes, I do. I'm going to get that on a T-shirt, I think. So he was very happy with the result, and his website is live, but that was quite a big battle. So it is part of my daily life. But I love it, because if you can turn a curmudgeon around, not that he's a curmudgeon, I love you very much, then, I feel like I've succeeded.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening to the VSBN Small Business Podcast. If you'd like to connect with me or my wonderful guests today, you can find the details of our guests in the podcast description. If you found this information helpful, subscribe to VSBN. It is a fantastic group. The Facebook group is amazing, and we'll be diving deeper into these topics in the future. Thanks for listening today.